All right, welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet, live on this Wednesday. We appreciate it if you hit that like button, share button, comment button. It has been really cool to get to know LSU's staff here under Coach Brian Kelly, staff and players that have come in here for the first season. We have been looking forward to catching up with South Louisiana's own Cortez Hankton, who is back in South Louisiana, coaching the wide receivers at LSU, and he is in studio here with us on this Wednesday. Coach, good morning. Thank you for your time, man.
Good morning, Jordy. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We've asked everybody that's come through here, and everybody's got a different story, and it's a really cool way of getting here. But for you, I think everybody's curious. How did you end up back home? How did you end up on Coach Kelly's staff?
You know, it's interesting. The first time that it was actually put out in the media was around the SEC championship.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you're in it, you try to be in it, so you don't pay much attention to it. But as the weeks go by and the more people ask you questions, I think that sometimes you have to address it. And I think it really became close to a reality in terms of pursuing opportunity at the middle of the playoffs.
Yeah.
You know, but I wanted to make sure I was committed to the guys, committed to the program in terms of the last place I was at, to give ourselves the best chance to go ahead and win one. And then as soon as that game was over, you know, a decision had to be made.
Yeah.
You know, doing my research in terms of tracking Coach Kelly and what he's done in every program that he's been, not just in terms of victories and winning football games, but also the development of the young men in this program, but also the growth and opportunity in terms of his staff.
Yeah.
And I was impressed with what I found. And so, you know, we had conversations, and I thought it was a great opportunity to move forward with, especially being in my home state.
Absolutely.
You know, so it's definitely good to be back home.
What did you know about Brian Kelly just before you jumped into doing the research? What was kind of your thought of him in just being in the coaching fraternity?
That he was a winner. You know, had a proven track record of turning programs around. Even talking to some of the guys that played for him, they really enjoyed playing for Coach Kelly. And what they talked about was not just in terms of him helping them develop as a football player, but also in terms of the professional growth,
yeah,
the emphasis on academics. And you know, anytime those values are aligned, you know, there's some chemistry there. And you know, it was definitely something that I wanted to connect with.
How cool was last season for you, getting to the top of the mountain and being a national champion on that staff with Georgia?
Man, awesome. And really, words can't explain it because, you know, once you get there, it's you realize it's a product of all the hard work, the sacrifice, the time that's put into it, and you know, there's nothing like it.
Absolutely.
You know, and the goal is to bring one back here.
Yeah. What is your thoughts of the LSU job, being in the coaching fraternity, whether it's just the wide receivers job or being on staff here? The way that I guess it was sold to Brian Kelly is that there's only one university that's had multiple head coaches win national championships over the last 20 years. As a guy who's on the staff now, recruiting to that, what's the thought of LSU's job and kind of what you're selling on the recruiting trail?
Well, first and foremost, the culture, the how unique it is in terms of the location, being the big-time program in the state. You know, we can't forget about the fuel, the music,
yeah,
and everything that plays in part of just the overall flavor of the program. You know, and it all matters. When you think about the people in the state, like, it all matters. It matters to be a winner, right? They take pride in their football teams, especially LSU.
Sure.
And so when you're talking about the attractiveness of a job and opportunity, you know, I don't think there's another place like it.
How cool was it to come home? How cool was it to make that call?
Well, you know, it was interesting because, and I'm about to tell my age, I graduated in 1998 from St. O. Okay, so born and raised in uptown New Orleans, and I hadn't lived in the state since 1998. And when I got back, you know, I didn't realize how much I missed being back home.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how much I missed the food either. You know, you're talking about a challenge. I think that's been one of the biggest challenges, is to turn away food.
I bet.
You know, and just having the access to all.
Seem to have done a good job.
To good eats. Hey, man, it seems like I have to work even harder now. But it's been awesome to be home, to be close to family, for my parents to be around their grandchildren. You know, that's pretty neat, and just to see the boys interact with cousins and families. You know, that's the things that are not talked about in terms of why this place is so special to me, because, you know, it truly hits home.
You were able to have some success in recruiting here in the cycle. We're able to go outside of the state and have a real high-end player from a popular part of the country in South Florida. How do you view Louisiana in recruiting, being a local from here and understanding the mentality of the players, and also being away from Louisiana for so long, and I'd imagine coming back in here and recruiting to it?
Well, in terms of the players and the mentality that come out of the state, you always have a natural grit about yourself, a natural competitiveness. You always want to win, and for our guys, we always just try to go get it. Mm-hmm. And so you try to find like-minded individuals in terms of what you're looking for, not only here but, you know, nationally. Because make no mistake, although everybody in the state loves LSU is still a national brand. You know, and so we're going to always do whatever we can to bring the best players that are fit for our program here to help us, you know, achieve our goals.
How has recruiting gone for you up to this point? Because I think that the biggest challenge that you guys had, and one that was very much, you couldn't relate it to anything that I could ever remember, was the rebuilding of the roster that you guys had to take on, and you did it through so many ways, through a signing class, through transfer portals, through graduate transfer. You've even kind of spun the momentum into this 23 class as well. How has it been hitting the ground kind of running to get to this point?
Well, in this profession, you understand that one thing, that recruiting is always going to be the bloodline of your program. And so you always have to hit that head first, and you always have to address the needs of your roster and be very, very smart about how you approach it and how you attack it. It's also a 24/7, 365 job. Mm-hmm. And so when you're in that grind, you understand that it's all about selling your program, making sure they understand that this is the best opportunity for them, but also cultivating relationships, because people matter.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, when you're talking to parents or the people that are really influencing these kids' life, they want to make sure that these young men are going to a place where they're going to be surrounded by people that truly care about them and have a genuine care and concern for their well-being first and foremost.
Yeah.
And then now, who is going to help them reach their full potential? And so as a staff, you know, those are the things that we want to make sure that we highlight. And we also want to find the guys that's going to be a fit for what we're trying to accomplish. And that's both on and off the football field.
What were your goals going into spring, and were you able to accomplish those?
Well, are you talking about from a recruiting standpoint
no,
or
sir.
program?
On the field.
Well, we want to always address and make sure we know the guys in our building. And first and foremost, before even football, you know, became a true part of it, we wanted to get to know the young men in the building and develop those relationships. And I think that, you know, one of the neat things about sitting down as offensive staff the first week, and I'll never forget it, you know, Mike D, he sat at the head of that table when they said, before we even dive into football, what we're going to do is we're going to pour into these young men. Mm-hmm.
And you're talking about Denbrock.
Yeah.
Yes,
so Coach Denbrock. And so when you have, you know, your offensive leader who believes in that, and that starts at the top, man, that's a great thing, because now we know everybody in our building, like our values are aligned. And first and foremost, it's all about the young men and truly caring about them.
What do you make of your room? Your room is very talented and deep. What do you make of your group now, getting to know them off the field, coaching them for 15 practices during spring, and now here set to go into fall camp?
I think we're ultra talented, competitive. But the thing that I was the most impressed about, man, was the way they were able to apply teaching in spring. I had never seen anything like it. It was like, man, I was teaching something, and you can see it happen on the field in competitive environments almost instantly. Mm-hmm. And so when you have that, man, you can tell that the guys are truly engaged, receiving what you're talking about. And, you know, they're working to be great. They're working to be better and never being satisfied. Now, make no mistake, it's never going to be perfect.
Yeah.
You know, the game of football is imperfect in itself, just the way the way it's played, the way it occurs. But, you know, the guys in my room, I love them. I really developed a relationship with a lot of them before because I recruited them at other places.
Sure.
So, you know, I knew the background, knew most of the whys, the family, and I think that really helped the transition be seamless.
Yeah. If right, you might have the best player in the country in Kayshon Boutte in your room. What have you made of his rehab and kind of where he is now? There's some film that came out from him at the Manning Passing Academy where he looked like Kayshon. What do you make of him going into his third season?
First is mental and emotional growth outside of the physical standpoint. What I can really appreciate about him, when in spring, he was truly engaged on the sideline with his teammates, within the offense, asking questions. And those are the things that it takes to be a pro. And he displayed that. And so, every day is going to be an opportunity for growth, and I think that he's done a good job with that.
Yeah. Jack Best last year was kind of cross-training. They had him at tight end. They put him at wide receiver. Anywhere that they put him, he was successful. Now they have him primarily focused on his natural position at wide receiver. What are your expectations from him in year two?
Just for him to be the competitive guy that he is, the hungry guy that he is. You can tell that he plays the game with a chip on his shoulder, blue-collar mentality, and, those are the dudes that we like. And I think that personality, that character really permeates all throughout our room, and so it's fun to be a part of.
Yeah. Malik Neighbors feels like he's the next superstar. There was some video that came out where you were mic'd up one day during practice, and you could tell you and him have a very good rapport with one another. What was it like kind of coaching him through spring, and what do you expect of him here in this season?
And once again, it goes back to relationship, and Malik was one that I recruited when he was a lot younger, when I was at another. So there was already some rapport that, and I just know how hungry the young man is to be great. And so when you understand the why and the motivation of somebody, and you can go ahead and you can push those buttons, I think you really put them in a position where they can put their skill set on display.
Yeah. You mentioned Denbrock. What's the relationship like with the offensive coordinator? How do those conversations flow, and what's it been like kind of working within that offense for the first couple of months?
Well, first and foremost, great to learn from a great mind. And the one thing about our offensive staff, I think you have a great collection of guys that don't have egos.
Yeah.
And when you have that, you have everybody that's willing to learn from everyone else in the room, but also everyone input is valuable. And so that's how you grow as a staff, that's how you develop chemistry, and that's how you put our guys in the best position.
You and Frank Wilson have to be hell to recruit against in the state of Louisiana, and especially in New Orleans. What has it been like to work alongside him, and what has that relationship been like before you now have worked together in the same staff?
Well, I go back, one, we both purple. I gotta say that. Graduated from St. Aug, named Purple Knight. So, naturally, your family and that. But he's always someone that has been like a big brother figure to me. We had conversations when I was first trying to get into coaching. And, he helped me along the way. But, it's been awesome. Because, like, for me and for everybody else, there is always an opportunity to learn. So being around him, in a short time from a professional standpoint, I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
And, once again, everything that I've attacked in my life is with a humble and hungry mentality. And I feel like every situation and every opportunity, there's an area for growth, an area to learn. And he's definitely a guy that I can learn from.
You were on staffs at Vanderbilt, you were on staffs at Georgia, you're now on this LSU staff, and we've had a chance to meet all of you guys that have come through here in a full-time position. And we've just had this point of view of you guys for an extended conversation, 45 minutes to an hour. But it all seems like you guys get along and like one another. And I'd imagine in the coaching industry, that's pretty tough to do, putting together a bunch of alphas into one room. Is that the right read on what Coach Kelly has done here in year one with the
Man, you
staff?
spot on. And so I'm going to tell you this, outside of just the work, because it's a grind. Yeah. And one thing that you have to understand when you're in this profession, you got to like the people that you're around. And so we have some comedians in the room. I'm going to tell you right now, Coach D funny, but Brad Davis might be the funniest guy that I've ever been around. Like seriously. But, just when you go around the room between Joe, Brad, Frank, Mike D, and we got a bunch of guys on the support staff that, the comedy, just keeps rolling. Carter Sheridan is also a guy, we were in high school together.
Wow.
And, he's like a brother to me as well. So, it's fun. It's truly fun to go to work. I enjoy what I do. I love what I do. But, I love it even more that I'm able to actually do it at LSU.
Denbrock sat right there and said that his quarterback room he believes is as fierce a competition as you'll find in the country. What do you make of that position? And does that spot change your play with whoever it is?
I don't think so. I think offensively we're going to do what we do. But, you always remember, you're going to play to the strengths of your players. You're going to play to the strengths of your roster. And however that competition unfolds, we're going to make sure that we maximize the skills for whoever is going to pull that trigger.
Yeah. Chris Hilton, Brian Thomas, two young guys that you can see their potential and capability. How have you seen their growth?
Love them. Extremely skilled, extremely bright.
Yeah.
I think they're both guys who pick up the game really fast. There are also two guys that I had opportunity to recruit, at the other place.
Sure.
And, it's ironic how it happens because, I think about all these guys I recruited, and of course I lost the recruiting battle because they came here, but I'm glad they're here because now I had an opportunity to come.
I noticed how you don't reference where you were, and I know how much that means in recruiting, but can you take me back to that matchup between George Pickens and Derek Stingley Jr. In the SEC championship game when you were looking at probably two of the best at their position just from your side, because Pickens had some success in the second half that day, and Stingley might have played his best game as a Tiger.
Yeah, it's fun to watch, man. It's fun to watch elite players go against each other.
Yeah.
And you had two guys who you can tell were looking forward to the matchup.
Right.
And so when you see guys go to work in the battles that are won and lost, I mean, it's just fun to watch. It's part of the game of football. And I know that neither were intimidated by the guy on the other side. The accolades didn't matter. The stars didn't matter. The only thing that matters is when that snap happened, like what's going to happen, where we going to go with it.
Right.
And so it was good to see.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they're going to have some more battles on Sundays too.
Yeah.
So look forward to seeing that.
How good was Burrow, Chase, Jefferson, Terrence Marshall, and crew that year from your point of view, seeing them up close like you did that day?
I'm going to just go on record and say this. To me, personally, I felt like that was the best football team that I've ever seen. Offensively, and then even watching them live and being on the other side of it, unfortunately, it was, as an offensive guy, it was good to see the efficiency that they work with, the chemistry that they had, and just every moment was an explosive moment.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it was just fun to watch. But not only that, man, the energy behind it. The energy behind it was just live.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just this weird feeling being on the other side because, they're playing that good local music. You hear some of that bounce. And, being from New Orleans, it's all so familiar. But you have to contain yourself because at the same time, you're trying to bust their head open on the opposite side.
Absolutely.
But once again, that was a really great team to watch. And, those you see those guys making some of those same plays now on Sundays.
You leave the best team in the SEC East and come over to the SEC West. What's your point of view of the league, of the SEC?
Regardless of division, first and foremost, every week in the SEC is going to be a battle. It is a headbanger. Like there's no such thing as an off week. I truly believe that. Now coming over to the West, it's truly thick with talent, and it's truly thick with competition. You got a lot of teams over here who have an opportunity to truly be great, and they're loaded with talent. Yeah. But that's what we do, right? We embrace the competition. We look forward to those matchups. That's why we play in this conference, and that's why I look forward to coaching on Saturdays.
Yeah. Have you had a chance to think about first game, Superdome, New Orleans, Sunday afternoon, prime time? I know you'll be zoned into it.
Yeah, it's on the schedule, but at the same token, man, we got a lot of opportunities to get better before that. And it's truly day by day. And I know, like, it's coach speak, but the reality of it is we got to make sure that we're taking advantage of every waking moment to put ourselves in the best position, to put our best foot forward, to put our best product on the field. And, I think as long as we worry about us first and foremost, then we give ourselves a chance to win. And, we'll get into the game planning and strategizing and all of that, but we got to make sure the LSU Tigers are straight first.
How much of the ancillary parts of being a college football player have improved since you were playing at Texas Southern, or since you've been in the coaching game, like the nutrition part and the strength and training part and the facilities?
Man, first off, we can't even talk about nutrition, because I just remember when I was at TSU, after the game, we would have like churches or something. Like
You
know what I'm saying?
Pizza for everybody, right?
It was just different, and it's crazy. Now, here's the one thing I will say. In this day and age, I can say that I think that sometimes the guys are spoiled just with the resources that are in place. Mm-hmm. Now to their benefit. I think that the improvements that or the advances in technology and nutrition, and you just seeing guys are putting themselves in a better position to become pros. Mm-hmm. By taking care of their body from what they eat, how they sleep, understanding how the body works just in terms of the load, with the GPS systems and things of that nature. So, it's for the benefit of them. Yeah. As long as they take advantage of it, I think all of it is awesome.
John Emery came through here and he couldn't stop talking about how his body's changing under Jake Flint, and how much it's more productive, and he's seeing more energy come out of it in different ways. How have you seen his tactics in the offseason and building you guys and getting you ready for fall camp?
Well, it's not just about just the strength and conditioning. It's about the team building and the cohesiveness and accountability. Those are the things that are really good to see, because you see a team forming.
Yeah.
You see a collective where it's not just about an individual, it's about a team. And, and sometimes within those teams you have cliques, but it's intentionally done with these groups. They have all different positions. Yeah. It's not just receivers, the DBs, quarterbacks, or whoever else. They're truly teams. So what he's doing is working, and I'm glad to be working alongside with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you talk about the team building process, how does a college football team use the summer when you don't have as much access to them as I imagine you would like as a coach?
Well, that's where the player leadership comes in, and you can provide the tools and information for the guys to go out and do what they have to do. But they literally give them the keys, and you give them the vehicle, but they have to drive it. Yeah. And it's truly player living. It's truly player led. And I think that they've done a good job with that. And it has gotten better. And that speaks to the growth and the maturity that we're seeing on this football team.
Yeah, everybody comes through here is talking about like the SWAT teams and what that's done to the locker room. I guess that's that natural accountability you talk about.
and that's where the accountability that I spoke of is truly being a part of those SWAT teams.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I guess it's here, huh, man? I mean, are you in it yet? Are you still kind of getting prepared for it, or is football season here?
Man,
for you?
I'm always in it. Mm-hmm. and even when you're not physically in it, it's hard to get your mind off of it. Especially when you're just your wheels are spinning in terms of just trying to find ways to help you guys get better. Mm-hmm. It's crazy that, I feel like I'm still young in this coaching profession, but I'm going into my 11th season coaching. Wow. And it's already here, and it goes by so fast. So for me, I've gotten to the point where I'm just trying to truly embrace it, because I remember as a player, you hated camp, man. It was like, damn, training camp. Back then it was 2-a-days, sometimes even 3-a-days. Coach would be slick and try to sneak another practice. Right. But this is an opportunity for us to bond, because we this is when we really spend the most time with the guys, and this is where your tools are truly formed. Yeah. That team bond, the mental toughness, the physical toughness, all of that, man. Camp is the grind. That's where you get that grit from to go get it. Yeah. And it's about to be that time to go and get it. So we're looking forward to it.
And Louisiana Heat will bring it out of you too.
Oh, without a question. Yeah. Without a question. You're talking about leaking, man, as soon as you walk outside.
Right. How do you look at your recruiting board? Do you say I'm taking a specific amount of players this year, or I'm just going after specific players in this cycle?
Well, I think it's a combination of both based on your needs. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to speak generally because, you never like to get into too specific. So if there are certain things you feel like you want to address, you try to address it. So, for instance, if you're looking for a guy that has more size, then you're going to try to find the best player with more size. You're looking for a guy that has some juice or speed, then you're going to look for the guys that has, the most speed. And that's typically how you approach it. and you always look at what you have coming in and what you have going out. And, you know, and at the end of the day, we all as a staff have to make sure that our numbers are right so we could properly, you know, manage our roster.
Absolutely. Make sure you pick out a pair of dead socksy socks, Coach, that you want for right here in the drawers before you get out of here. This conversation and interview brought to you by our friends at Dead Socksy. Appreciate you stopping by, man, and coming through here. You're the last of the assistant coaches. We saved the best for last, but one thing I can say, and I go back to, I asked you about in an interview, it's a collection of, it looks just like good people, man. Mm-hmm. And when you put together good people that are pulling in the same direction, usually good stuff happens. So looking forward to watch you guys work in year one.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I'm looking forward to it, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. There is Coach Cortez Hankton stopping in the building this morning, talking LSU wide receivers, fall camp, all getting geared up for next week. We'll be back with more of the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet.